Good evening, Anthony, and good evening, Graham.
Hello,
Sunday
Charles.
night, and welcome on a miserable, grey, raining
Yeah,
Sunday.
it's squally showers and sudden
Streak,
gales and it's
streak,
winter windswept,
streak.
annoying weather.
Hmm. That hasn't spoilt the day today. Today, journalists, friends, and colleagues of Steve Pratt, the former Northern Echo journalist and York Theatre Royal Press officer who passed away in January, and we held a memorial celebration today for his life and his happy memories indeed, and sadness, of course, in his passing. But it was lovely to be able to get together today and celebrate that life. And thank you for all those who came to that. And so
Weren't you
that's
leading the whole thing, Charles?
yes,
You were
I
leading it,
was.
weren't you?
I was
Hmm,
Master of Ceremonies, which was an absolute honour to be able to do that. And the good news,
hmm.
from selfishly, was I was still able to fit back into the suit that I hadn't been able to wear for more than a decade until I lost some weight.
Wow.
And so thank goodness I could still do that. So that a
So
very
that's a real
milestone.
triumph of faith in
Yes.
yourself to keep it
A
for 10
mi-
years.
well, having not been able to, no, I mean, I had 10 years when I couldn't wear it, and then
Yeah.
lost more than 2 stone, as you know, and thankfully I've kept enough off to wear it at today's celebration, which is a purely selfish thing to mention, but nevertheless, wanted to look the part because Steve was a proper dandy he was
Mm,
famous for wearing his sparkling shoes on press nights, and
mm.
his collection of more than 30 Hawaiian shirts of all colours under the sun, and often themed to go with the play that was being given its press night that night. So, as I say, this was a lovely, but obviously very sad event, but a lovely at the same time, good storytelling all round, which you'd expect from journalists and friends. So that was good news there. Now, Graham, you and
In
I,
terms of sadness, Charles, have you
yeah.
seen the film Midwinter Break yet with Kieran Hines and Leslie Manville?
No, despite your excellent recommendation,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah, I'm just
I've not.
checking.
I have every intention of doing so, but the
It's all
opportunity
right.
did, the
Well,
opportunity
you
did
probably
not
missed
come.
it. I can't believe it's hanging around the multiplexes for two
Yeah,
weeks, 3 weeks. So,
probably not,
mm.
and it won't be hanging around in a dirty Mac, that's for sure. So maybe maybe I have to wait for the world of streaming or something to show it if it's not. But later on, we'll come on to a film that I did see. But first, something where we had a splendid evening that started in Pizza Punks in Leeds and moved on
Nice
to,
restaurant.
well, the full. It's fair to say an absolute full meal of a performance by Gorillaz. Um, Starter, main course, pudding, all there.
Well, it was a multicultural buffet, is what it was.
It absolutely was a multicultural buffet. And you and I have seen Damon Albarn. It must be
In
getting on
every
for.
guise
I would
for
think
about
we've
35
probably
years.
seen maybe 10 different times at least,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
had seen Gorillas before. Last time I saw Damon was at York Minster playing at the piano in that awe-inspiring nave there, which was such a contrast because that was so concentrated, so specific to the setting, an album written in and post-COVID, and largely a very somber occasion. And I think this is one of the things that's so wonderful about Damon is that he just can do something as concentrated as that, and then we see the full panoply of possibilities of a concert and a modern concert. And I
Oh, yeah,
think
he can do Blur. He
yeah,
filled Wembley Stadium with Blur only two
yep,
years ago. He
yep,
can do The Good, the Bad, and the Queen, very interesting band. He can
yep,
do Africa Express, whose
yep,
name alone tells you this is interesting.
yep,
Then he
with
can
the
do
late Tony Allen. Yeah.
Gorillaz, all vaguely in the same time period. It's quite extraordinary.
And I have it on good faith, though I can't say any more than this, that Damon is
Hmm,
working on a new opera. I cannot say any more than that.
really? Is there
But
no
that,
end to his talents?
I mean, he did one opera before for one of the Manchester festivals,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and he is working on another one now. I cannot say any more than that, but I am very
Hmm.
intrigued as to where that goes. So this is one of the reasons to celebrate Damon and the diversity, and that is not to make a
Yeah, but
comparison.
Gorillaz really isn't. Damon like takes
Yeah,
the role of the man in charge
yeah.
who
He's
co-writes
Leonard
or
Sachs
writes
on one. He's
music,
like
and he does
Leonard
a lot of the
Sachs, isn't
singing.
he?
But he doesn't act like he's a star of the show,
No.
even though it's his baby. He's like the sort of ringmaster,
Yeah.
casually pulling it all together the whole time.
The ringmaster is a really good word for it because he does keep introducing. I mean, it was never-ending merry-go-round of acts. Now, either live and in person or on screen. So very early on, we had Sparks in the song that they've done for the Mountain album. So suddenly you'd
Yeah,
have
and
that.
Dennis,
Later
the
on, you'd
late
have
Dennis Hopper,
yeah,
late
yeah,
Dennis
right.
Hopper
Yeah,
was there as well.
actually, even before we had Sparks, we had the late Dennis Hopper saying the
Bobby
words "the
Womack.
mountain." Bobby Womack on screen. We had Marquis Smith on screen. So, and that's just on screen. Oh, and Anusha, have I got the name right? Anusha Shankar as well. Forgive me if I got that first
Yeah,
name.
that's true. That's right.
So she features on screen as well. So you constantly have imagery on screen as well as Liam Howlett's imagery of Gorillaz, the virtual band, and indeed
I think
their
it's Jamie Hewlett. Not, I think Liam
Jamie.
Howlett might have been in the Prodigy.
Liam Howlett was most
To be
definitely
honest,
in
yeah,
Liam Howlett was most definitely in the Prodigy,
yeah. Okay,
and
well, I
indeed
know the artist involved with Gorillaz is Jamie Hewlett. I know
you're
that.
quite right. It's Jamie. Why on earth
Hmm.
would I say Liam Howlett? Forgive me, Liam, and
Because
forgive me,
it's a
Jamie.
similar name.
It's an easy mistake to make up,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so that's just a visual element of the show. Then there is all the different cultures that seep into the music as well.
Well, it's not really indie. I mean, Damon is from an indie background,
Yeah.
a sort of rock background, and there's a little element of rock within Gorillaz, but it's only a small element.
Mm.
They're not a rock band. They're not an indie band.
He played guitar very sparingly in the show.
Mm.
Played blue. I think it's called the Mellotron, isn't it? That he played. And
No, he played the melodica a lot, which
thank you.
comes from reggae
I'm
music.
very glad that you're here to edit me in person for my
Mm, mm,
incompetence tonight.
mm.
Yeah, he played the melodica several times
Yeah,
as the lead instrument in a song. Um,
yeah,
of course, he was on keyboards and piano, but he had two guitarists there with him. There was
yeah.
a
But the
tabla player.
only two guys in the band, and there was always
Mm,
at least 10 musicians on stage.
yes.
The only two musicians on stage at any point who looked like they belonged in a rock band was Damon himself
Yeah.
and the lead guitar player Jeff Wooten. No one else belonged in the world of rock and indie. So it's Damon once again bringing things to the table that don't really usually belong in the place he's from.
In your very excellent review in the Harrogate Advertiser that I advise anyone to read, um, and
Online.
you make a really good point about playing to the young audience that was there. That was, I mean, for example, we had a conversation with a 21-year-old girl at one point to explain she's the daughter of someone that you know well, but she's probably typical of the younger audience that absolutely loves Gorillaz. Graham, what is it you think about Gorillaz that has so this is not a heritage act that some
Well, you're not
musicians of
joking.
Damon's age
It's
are. It's anything but that.
the thing is like girls are 25 years old now at least,
Mm,
and Damon himself is 58.
mm,
I mean, with Blur, his first hit with Blur was 35 years ago, and
exactly.
yet the majority of the packed out crowd, at least for Leeds' first direct bank arena, if I can actually say that, Leeds' first direct bank arena,
You've
it's
got it
like
right.
Leeds' first direct Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band arena. It's a bit of a long-winded title. Well, the majority of the audience were under 25,
Yep.
often under 20 years old, and
Yep.
their hands were swaying, and they absolutely loved it. They weren't there because for heritage reasons or nostalgia
No,
reasons.
no,
They probably didn't even care about Damon at all.
no.
They were there because the Gorillaz mean something to them. And what the Gorillaz mean to them is a different vision of the world that's based on being multicultural, liberal, tolerant, not misogynist, not for war, not for exploitation. All those liberal buttons that Damon's been pressing for decades have, have finally become the norm amongst people who are young. And so Damon is like ahead of his time. He's always been ahead of his time.
Mm.
And when he first started Gorillaz, people thought, "Oh, that's quite interesting that somebody from Blur should do that." But no, Damon was the future. What we didn't realize in 2001 was that Gorillaz were the future.
And I think you make the point in the notes that you sent me that they remain the future.
Well, yeah, because that argument's not been won.
No.
Although the argument's been won amongst an awful lot of young people, and Gorillaz are successful across the planet, especially young people, for very much for that reason. Although the argument's been won amongst young people, the people around the world, as you and me occasionally mention, really haven't gone along with that
Well,
trend whatsoever. In
we
fact,
were
they've gone the opposite way.
we were speculating that just as Donald Trump considered that Bad Bunny's performance was, well, he thought he put the bad into Bad Bunny basically, and just went on about him being. I think he even used the word terrible. I
Mm.
think, much as I don't wish to bring Donald Trump into this discussion, he would have been watching. He would have been watching Gorillaz and thinking, in his terms, "This is terrible. This is terrible. This is multiculturalism. This is a vision that he does not want to see in the world."
Well, yeah, the guerrillas were that being political because although they were all dressed in matching green military shirts with a CND peace badge on
Mm,
every chest of every
mm,
band member,
mm.
there was no speeches, there was no
No,
reference to
no,
Gaza or Iran or climate change or
no,
poverty or anything.
no.
The medium was the message. Just by being guerrillas and doing what they were doing, that was already an affront to Farage and Trump and all the right wing populist movements across the
Mm,
world. And it was. I've never seen Damon look so cool. I mean, Blur were a great band, but you would never said Damon Albarn was cool.
no.
And the way he just holds it together with no pomposity and no grand introductions. I mean, you had genuine rap legends walking on stage,
Yes.
like the guy from De La Soul and The Far Side. You had Mos Def, although he's
Mm,
changed his name to Yassine Bey.
yeah.
You had a US singer-songwriter Kara Jackson and Joe Talbot from Idols, the
Mm,
only
mm,
nod to like indie music, and that
mm.
great Argentinian rapper Trueno, who's only
True.
24.
Bueno. Yeah.
They would just walk on off stage like, in a casual fashion without even being introduced hardly. And so it made it all so look so spontaneous and improvised and normal. And of course, it wasn't. It's an arena show, so it's all been practiced and rehearsed and carefully put together. And Damon has that magic ability to make something difficult look really easy.
He had one moment where something didn't go as he wanted, slammed the microphone to the floor and said rewind. And I mean, that's still a perfectionism in, for all the fact that I think you and I noted, there is a ramshackle element to it. But as the ringmaster, he does like it to go right, as it were. And in that moment, the perfectionist in Damon briefly showed its head and demanded that they started again. I didn't feel that was contrived. I thought that just was in the moment. And,
Well, yeah, a long
showed.
time ago, I saw the Cure at Edinburgh
Mm,
Odeon, I think
mm,
during the Faith tour, 17 seconds, and some bit of equipment didn't work for Robert Smith, and he literally flew his head out for 5 minutes,
mm,
and the audience started to boo. So if you're a successful musician or artist of any caliber and standing, if things don't go right, because you take it really seriously, it actually means something to you, you're going to get annoyed. And Damon's not really a showbiz guy. He's not going to like
no,
put on an act.
no,
So if he acted annoyed, it's because he was annoyed.
yeah.
But yeah, it did show there's an ego behind the
Oh, yeah.
works as well.
But the other element now, I mean, we've talked about just how much Gorillaz appeal to a young audience. I would say there's something that maybe you and I, being an older age, would tap into, which is Damon reflecting and Jamie Hewlett reflecting on death. That's a strong theme within the album, and it to some extent was present in the gig in that you had the spirit of Bobby Womack, the spirit of Marquis Smith. So you had, as it were, I don't want to call them ghost figures, but they were figures of they have died. Then of course Damon's own situation and Jamie's own situation of the father figure dying, and there was the very somber moment where Damon said, "This show's about lots of people, but this particular song is one man." Didn't name the man, but one sensed that it was a song that tapped into the conscientious objections of his grandfather in wartime. And as you say, again, no overt direct mentions. Just you
Well,
picked up
it's
on
a
the
it's a
possibilities of what he
it's
was
a very
implying.
positive show, and I think Gorillaz aren't there to do cliches. I think from the very beginning, and they've done 9 albums now, 9 studio albums.
Mm,
Gorillaz didn't do, and Damon didn't want cliche. He didn't want like anything smacking of sentimentality
yeah,
or crowd pleasing. But bizarrely, although the crowd loves them, they don't really do much crowd pleasing. They just stand there and do the thing like a. He called the band a family at one point, and that
yes,
shows you the vibe that he's trying to get. And because they're a family on stage, it creates a family, a community in the audience. He's trying to create something good as an example. He's not there to tell you how to behave or
no,
how the world should be. He's living, in terms of his culture and his music, he's
mm,
living what he wants the world to be. He's not talking about doing something. He's actually doing something in reality that reflects his vision. And that's what's really impressive, almost more than the music, because the new album, The Mountain's quite psychedelic,
Yep.
Asian, Indian, wiffly waffly in a
Yep.
beautiful
Mystical Indian mysticism
atmospheric
certainly
fashion.
there. Mm.
It's not full of bangers. In fact,
Yep.
most Gorillaz albums, apart from the first two, and tracks like Clint Eastwood and Dirty Harry and Kids with
Which they
Guns,
played. Yes.
don't have many bangers.
No.
It's because the show itself is bigger, almost bigger than the songs.
Mm.
The whole show works like a dream. It's very un-British, except for Damon. You can imagine someone abroad come out with that show, or Air or Daft Punk, if they weren't
Mm.
so relentlessly precise and super cool the whole time. But Damien British pulls it all together like a sort of like he makes it feel like Dad's Army almost. I don't mean like full of old blokes doing stuff, but you know, it's a
Um,
warm, informal,
yeah.
natural, organic gig. It's not like a sort of like choreographed to the exact second with a timetable type experience.
On a very basic level, it just felt, and this is sounds like I'm being a hippie, it just felt lovely to be there in the presence of that.
That's true.
That was a divine place to be that night. I mean, he did even
Mm,
sing the words blue skies, not as in blue sky thinking, but he mentioned about of blue skies, and even amid imagery of the sadness of loss or whatever. Even in this, so losing someone is the hardest thing. Starts off a short burst of that sentiment, and then breaks into the version on Orange County, which has whistling and is actually the
mm.
most hummable and up tempo tune that is on there, and yet actually, it is about death and dealing with death and reacting to death. So you've got that somehow he's able to both create a beautiful happiness within the structure of the song, and yet the lyrics obviously are leading to the fact that losing someone is the hardest thing to do. So that's a delicate balancing act doing that.
He spends a lot of the gig smiling. You can tell that he wants Gorillaz to be fun.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the influence of Indian spirituality in The Mountain and on some other Gorillaz tracks.
Mm.
I mean, Indian spirituality is based on being positive. It's not
Yeah.
based on being negative.
No.
Western religion is quite doom laden, but
Yes.
but Eastern religion isn't. And so the spirit of Gorillaz reflects Eastern religion, not Western religion.
Yes. And actually, therefore, it ends up with the song. The Orange County song is the one that's the more memorable of the two that follow into it, if follow each other. Graham, as in terms of how one looks at acts from that era, and obviously there was a huge comeback for Oasis last year, playing no songs from beyond the year 2000 at all.
Mm.
Massive attendances, big emotional outpourings, plenty of beer, lots of celebration.
Yeah,
Um,
comfort food. It was comfort food for the masses.
that's so exactly now. So if we're saying that's comfort food for the masses, what is Gorillaz?
Gorillaz is an alternative vision of how the masses could live
Mm,
in a better world, is what it
mm,
is.
mm.
And I think that's what Damon means it to be as well. I think the biggest comparison you can make between Oasis and Gorillaz is compare the Clash's first album to
Yeah,
Sandinista.
yeah,
From the basic but brilliant, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 punk of the Clash that anybody can like.
yeah,
It's quite simplistic but
yeah.
great. To Sandinista, that huge melting pot of a triple
Mm,
album with every type of music under the sun
yeah.
brought together by Joe Strummer and Mick Jones and Paul Simon, who plays with Gorillaz obviously a bit.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference. Like Oasis are the Clash's first album, Gorillaz are Sandinista. And I know that Damon was a big fan of the specials in
Mm,
the 80s and also the Clash for albums like the Sandinistas. So,
yeah.
in a way, the Gorillaz is the end point of the internationalist project began by the specials
Yeah.
and the Clash in the early 1980s.
Mm. I absolutely can see that with it. Any negatives with it, Graham? And I largely, given how positive the vibe felt there, were there any negatives with it?
I just think the whole show is better than the music. The music
Mm,
is all constantly skilled and interesting and well arranged and melodic. There are not that many. great Gorillaz songs that anybody
mm,
else we want to get acoustic guitar and cover.
mm,
It's not that sort of band. They're more about the overall end result than they are about individual tracks, apart from the first couple of albums, really.
yes.
So if it wasn't for the show being so good and the vibe being so good and the visuals, all that Gorillaz animated history, like
Mm,
anime, like Korean and Japanese animated movies, if all
yeah.
the whole thing wasn't so fantastic and all you had was a boring band on stage playing the music with nothing else, led by someone with no charisma, you'd start to think, okay, the music's pretty good, but is it that good? But that thought doesn't even occur because the show is brilliant.
And that's also partly because you've got the revolving door of the vocalists that come on as well.
Mm,
So there's a constantly shifting focus within it, and
yeah, yeah.
so there's always. I mean, if a gig has to be more than an album, which I always believe it should be, it should be either. It's more exhilarating to go to a gig than just listen to an album. Then
I
then that's
yeah.
what these songs come alive. Obviously,
I
they
played Demon Days, the second album from
yeah
2005, I think it was,
mm,
which went double platinum in America and
yeah
more times platinum in Britain.
yeah
And let me tell you, the show that we saw at Leeds Arena last Wednesday
mm,
was way better than Demon Days. And that's their
yes
best-selling album.
yes
It's
of
a good
course
album.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah. So thank you for Leeds' first direct bank arena for as ever. It's a fantastically well run place, Graham.
Oh yeah, but it's
You're
very
in and out
slick,
in
isn't
no
it?
time at all there.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah, I
well
agree. I
run.
agree. I could do without £9 a pint for beer though.
Graham, I remember that. You must just be thankful that I only want a glass of water, but
I
I'm,
was.
and so much, I'm so much easier to please. So I'm back there this weekend coming to see James. I obviously have seen James far too many times in your opinion, but I shall be seeing them
I
again
do
this
believe
weekend.
that Tim Booth actually reminds you to come along because he knows that if you don't see James at regular intervals, you actually feel bereft.
I suffer withdrawal symptoms. This
Mm.
is this is true. So I will, of course, reflect on that, but not in the detail perhaps that we've given to Gorillaz as our headline act for tonight. Now, Graham, talking of famous people and encountering famous people, uh, former Prime Minister, British Prime Minister, or Prime Minister, as you've written here, Rishi Sunak,
Prime Minister.
primed. You had a brief but, oh dear, disastrous encounter with the MP for part of North Yorkshire, of course.
Well, he's MP for Richmond and Northallerton, which is in
Certainly is.
North Yorkshire. It's part of the. It's just vaguely part of Harrogate Hazard's patch, just at the upper end.
Yeah.
And since I bumped into Kemi Badenoch, the current Tory leader, the other
Mm.
week, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to like complete that sort of Tory journey
Yeah.
by meeting Rishi Sunak? And lo and behold, he was coming to open up a new business in North Yorkshire. And so I said, well, I was under pressure to come as a Harrogate advertiser, but as a busy man, I thought, I haven't really got
Mm.
time for this. But they said, oh, Rishi's coming, Rishi Sunak's coming for Prime Minister. I said, oh, great. Well, if I can just get a quick interview with them, I'll come along. He said, oh, yeah, yeah, quick interview. So I went there with that purpose in mind. And what turned out, how it happened, and it's not an important event. What happened to me with Rishi Sunak isn't vaguely important,
No.
but it's got a slightly Kafka esque aspect to it, but also a little bit, and you probably don't remember this one. In the 90s, the star of Greggy's Girl comedy film, John Gordon Sinclair,
Yes.
was in a sitcom called Nelson's Column, where he played a slightly incompetent local newspaper reporter. So the whole days of afternoon's events were like that. So I went along, and it was all really busy before Rishi turned up, and everybody's dressed in suits. It's a bit like waiting for a royal visit. And I'm
Mm.
standing there chatting to the people at the business, and it's all going well, and I'm feeling good about the whole thing. And then I was told that they hadn't actually informed Rishi or his team that I was doing a quick interview with them. And
Oh.
at that point, I felt slightly alarmed, but I thought it'll be all right. And I
Mm.
thought if I get a chance to chat properly, I'll ask him two questions.
Yeah.
First of all, what are the chances of a Tory recovery at the next general election? Because I think there's more chance than people think. And
Mhm.
secondly, as the former prime ministers do not stay on as an MP for
No.
Richmond
No.
Northallerton in
No.
general. David Cameron isn't a MP anymore.
No.
Theresa May's not an MP anymore. Liz Truss isn't an MP anymore, and Boris Johnson isn't an MP anymore. So I was thought, I'll ask him why are you still doing this? Why are you
Yeah.
still
Good, a
an
very good
MP
question. Should be
in a
asked.
rural market town
Yeah.
in Northern England? But this did not happen. This
Oh.
did not come to pass because when he eventually came in with his entourage,
Mm,
he walked straight into me. So I had to have a quick chat about him opening this new business.
mm.
But then he asked me who it was. And I said, Graham Chalmers, the Harrogate advertiser. And at that point, his face looked slightly alarmed.
Why?
So he then carried on his tour of the new business.
Hmm.
Then, after that, a succession of people I did not know and who did not introduce themselves to me came along and asked me what I was doing there. One seemed to be the Tory press officer, the other one was definitely security. And they were both making it quite plain that there would not be an interview with Rishi Sunak,
But you were invited to be there.
but by the business, not by Rishi Sunak. That was the problem. But the interesting thing was that I was the local press at a local event trying to talk to the local MP.
Hmm.
And what I didn't realize until I experienced the whole thing was that as an ex prime minister, the security around him is
Is
still big.
yes.
And to a reasonable degree, he is still acting like he's a prime minister.
Hmm.
He was sort of dressed in your sort of typical, sort of like preppy meets country set
Hmm.
outfit in a sort of casual but meticulously neat fashion that people who run tech firms or
Yes.
in think tanks tend to wear.
Exactly.
So it was like he was still prime minister, and the air around him was still like a prime minister. He was being treated like he was, and I suppose my only mistake was to misjudge the fact that he may have only been prime minister for 2 years, and he may only be a local MP. He's not in the shadow cabinet, but he
Hmm.
still carries the whole clout and weight of being a prime minister, or at least he thinks he does, and his team certainly thought he did.
I mean, it's interesting that normally in that situation you would have thought. Uh, I mean, even it sounds like his team hadn't been briefed to the fact that you would be there. That seems to have been the problem.
Yeah, that would throw their nose out of joint because they need to arrange these things, they need to know
But
who's
that's
turning
the
up.
business's fault, not yours.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it felt like an overreaction on their part. It felt like a bit controlling of them. It, at one point, I almost said like, "You realise that I'm from the Harrogate Advertiser, not Hezbollah."
Hmm.
But obviously, that would have been a terrible thing to have said. I
Not a
would
good
have,
one,
I
Graham.
would,
No.
I would really got in trouble for that one. So fortunately, I didn't say that because otherwise,
you
I might have got
held
stripped.
back, and rightly
I might have
so.
got strip searched or bundled in a van.
So, were you forcibly ejected?
No, no, but you
Did he
can't.
allow any
At one point,
photographs?
no, at one point I was fall. Yeah, I took photographs of
Yeah.
him cutting a cake, but at one point I was following him around at a discreet distance, and
Hmm.
eventually I thought, if they're not happy with being here, I'm not going to get to do an interview.
No.
This is a bit wrong for me to follow him around. It's a bit almost like
Hmm.
stalking.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
the word I would have
left.
been reaching for. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I left because I thought, this game's a bogey. The show's over. It's
So,
time to leave the venue.
how in the end did you write it up?
I didn't. I will happily write about the business opening and the fact
Hmm.
that Rishi Sunak opened it,
Yeah.
but I can't possibly write anything beyond that because
No.
it's just to invite trouble.
Yes. Well, there we have it. Graham has yet again putting his face to the furnace of political danger and
It was
somehow
a great act
surviving.
of hubris because I arrived thinking like, okay, this is great. I met Kevin Badnock. Now it's time to do Rishi. So it was like an act of hubris on my part. I
Yes.
should have known better.
Now, thrillingly, looking forward to the latest vinyl sessions coming up in Harrogate. This time, you're going to explain the difference between Queen's Greatest Hits and Queen's Greatest Hits 2. Well, I can tell you the first difference, the title.
Brilliant and different songs, obviously, and a different era. The
So I
first one was
feel
the
that there
'70s.
must be more
The second
depth to
one's the '80s.
this occasion than the obvious.
Oh yeah, in the '70s they were mainly a rock band with influences of the Who, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, with that sort of great baroque guitar sound of Brian Mays
Well,
and
yeah.
the
Mm.
fantastic vocals of Freddie Mercury. But they were definitely a '70s rock band, even though
Yeah.
they dipped into music hall and all sorts.
Mm,
by the 80s, when the musical landscape had changed and they'd grown older, their 80s hits on Greatest Hits 2 have synthesizers, drum machines, much more poppy,
mm,
much more, much less guitar driven. Brian May's guitar comes along as a guest in
mm.
songs in their 80s hits on Greatest Hits 2. And in the 70s, it's quite a prominent feature on most tracks. So they became sonically and style wise a much different band, which is to their credit because there's not many bands can change styles lots of times and have hits. So it's part of the reason Queen are so big still because they had so many strings to the bow.
That's why so many cover bands are out there, such as a strong canon of songs that are so diverse. Absolutely right.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, you
Been
know,
changes. They've been, yeah,
they go as far as crazy little thing called love, which
exactly,
they would
yeah,
not, most definitely not have done in the 70s. No way would they would have done a song like that in the 70s. No way.
yeah. I think it's because a bit like the Beatles and all the great bands, they were four totally different characters
Mm.
with different loves and different, pet sounds, so to speak. So like the Beatles, they rather than being divided by that diversity, they brought it all together successfully because they were clever people.
Yeah, I mean, Roger Taylor writes Radio Gaga. Again, not like
Mm.
anything else they'd done before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
The Ringo number of the band. Yeah.
but yeah, that's coming up on April Wednesday 8th and at Starling Bar in Harrogate, and every penny goes to the Harrogate Hospital Community Charity and the Special Baby Unit at Harrogate Hospital.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'll be giving an introduction talking about the difference between the two albums. And also there'll be a guest role, a Q&A with George Farrar, who's in Queen Extravaganza. He's a talented young musician from Harrogate who's worked a bit with Brian May and Roger Taylor. So he's going to have a
Mm.
bit of a Q&A talking about that.
Mm. Excellent. No
Didn't you
idea how
see a
long
Ryan
that was.
Gosling film this week, Charles?
Yes, so now I was going to go and see the Mother's Pride film, but it was sold out. So we ventured instead to see uh, the
Hail
Project
Mary.
Hail Mary. Now, this is written by Drew Goddard, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, based on a 2021, but it says here, hard science fiction. I'm not quite sure what that means. Hard science fiction novel by Andy Weir. And now, Ryan Gosling, of course, previous to this, most recently, I suppose, the big Barbie movie. So we saw his comic chops in that, comic chops rather at his expense, though, with it was rather in the victim role, as it were.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
not a funny guy in himself. He doesn't really play
no,
comedy himself.
well, he has to do a lot of that in this.
Ah, how is he?
I think that he copes very well with it. He's
Interesting.
playing opposite an alien,
Oh no. I hate films like that.
and it's a film that you gradually get into and you warm to. I think it's playful. It's always
Is
that
Ryan
thing.
Gosling an astronaut then?
Yes, he is.
He's done an
Well,
astronaut before,
He
surely.
wasn't an astro. He's an astro. He's an astrophage expert. He's a school
Ah,
teacher, but he ends
ah.
up being the only man suitable to go on this particular mission.
Mm.
As he says about himself, "I am the naught in astronaut," but nevertheless, he ends up having to go into space
Yeah.
and connecting with this creature from Erid, who's an Eridian, who looks like he gets named Rocky. He looks like an
Oh.
arachnid, and it
So
develops into a bond between the two. Now, you could say this
yeah,
is
but I
ridiculous.
thought this was hard sci-fi. It sounds like a bit of a bizarre, fun buddy movie.
I think that's exactly how it ends up being, and I enjoyed
Ah,
it all the more for that because it
mm.
does. It is an unusual buddy movie,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
why not? Why
Is
not
it
have
good though? Is it good?
I enjoyed it. The more it went on, the more I was enjoying it. And
Yeah.
he does have star quality about him. He absolutely does.
He's a bit of a
He has to
smolderer
dominate this
though.
film.
I feel he's very poor at being vulnerable or having solely smolders with a lot of depth behind his
He's having
eyes.
to do vulnerable in this.
That's
I
good.
agree with you. He's a smolderer normally. And yes, the
Mm.
looks are there, and his hair's perfect, despite the fact that he's in space all this time. He always seems to be able to have his hair looking just right. That happens. But I just think I found it as a Saturday night movie, a pleasurably. I'm not going to say daft because it was more thought provoking than that, but it kept surprising and amusing and coming up with things that I wasn't expecting within it. And there is and he's playing without, he's not just doing the smolder bit. There is a vulnerability that's not normally there. There is also the comedy that isn't strongly there with him normally. And I don't think he looks out of place at doing that.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic sub-production.